Weekend, Monday for Labor Day, 80 with sunshine, and then 81 degrees expected Tuesday. Next week, the chance for rain is back on Wednesday, 74 degrees, and the temperatures start to tumble after that. You can see we're going from 81 degrees on Tuesday down to the mid-70s Wednesday, Thursday around 65, and it actually looks like wrapping up the week next week could have some cooler temperatures as well. But in the meantime, today it is going to be a dry rest of our afternoon. We still have that beach hazard in effect for northwest Indiana because of high waves possible, rip currents too. Illinois, that beach hazard has been dropped, so the rest of the afternoon just feeling very fall-like. 72 degrees is our high. We should be in the low 80s for this time of year, so below normal, but it will be lovely for our long weekend ahead. Sylvia.
All right, thanks for that, Caitlin. In case you didn't know, tomorrow is also the last Navy Pier fireworks of the summer, so get out there and enjoy it. That's going to do it for us here on Fox 32 News at noon. The news continues on Chicago Live on Fox Local. Have a great day. Hope to see you at 4.
Chicago, we're going to start this 1 o'clock hour with a live look from New Orleans, where 20 years ago, the devastating Hurricane Katrina made its landfall there. It's been 20 years since then, made its landfall on August the 29th of 2005. What you're looking at is looks like it's a parade of some sort. A lot of folks in New Orleans are kind of remembering back on the devastation that they encountered on that fateful day 20 years ago. The city of New Orleans has not been the same since that devastating hurricane came through. I want to give you a couple of facts about the storm. That storm caused over $200 billion in damage. That does adjust for inflation just a little bit. We're going to be speaking with a hurricane expert from our friends at Fox Weather. We're also going to spend some time with a man who lived through the storm, is on the Gulf Coast. Again, we were going to be checking back in with New Orleans throughout the day again today. Marks 20 years since Hurricane Katrina made landfall in New Orleans and really devastated much of the Gulf Coast. Jim, do we have any sound from New Orleans here? Do you know? Not yet? Okay. Wanted to bring that to you in case they were doing what's called a second line, which is usually a processional that happens down in New Orleans where they have a brass band going down the streets. It is a very sound that defines the city of New Orleans, a city that has been through a lot over the last 20 years and is still recovering to this day. Again, thanks so much for joining us on this Friday edition of Chicago Live. Right now, we want to bring you back here at home, where Metra is one of the best ways if you are traveling from the south suburbs to get into the city for all the festivities that are happening here in Chicago this weekend. We got a couple of concerts happening at Soldier Field. You know, we've got a lot of different street festivals as well. But electric service remains impacted after a fire happened at the University Park substation on Thursday. We're joined now this afternoon by Meg Thomas Rial. Did I get your last name right?
It's Riley.
Riley. Okay, Riley. Meg Thomas Riley for an update. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us, and thanks for the plug at the beginning. Well, the good news is we are back running for the rest of the day, and we expect to run throughout the weekend all the way to University Park. However, we are still making repairs, and waiting for some of the equipment we need to make those repairs, some of the supplies. So there may be changes, but the goal is right now for the rest of the day to continue running on a regular schedule. The weekend and Sunday and holiday schedule's a little lighter, so we expect to be able to do that. But we do want people to continue to look at the alerts on Metra.com to make sure before they travel. At the worst, we will still be supplying service to Madison. It's just the Richton and University Park stations that may be affected at some point. But right now, we are running all the way to University Park, and I can't emphasize that enough. We will keep people informed as we go into Tuesday for a regular rush if it's still going to impact them. So look to Metra.com, and we will put out notification to the media if there are significant impacts. throughout the weekend. But right now we are running again, so that's the good news.
That is a step in the right direction. Meg, could you give us an update on what exactly happened on Thursday and how did we get here?
Well, we had a fire in the substation, and it damaged one of the cables that works with the power supply. It also damaged the ComEd feed. So first we had to wait for ComEd to fix what they needed to fix. And now we are waiting for a new cable. And this is 1,500 volts of direct current. So it's not something that you can just go to your average electronics store and just pick up a new cable. So we're waiting for that to come in. We are able to use, of course, there are always redundancies and duplicates in these systems, but you can't touch things when you've got, until you know that everything, and they spent last night into the wee hours of the morning and actually through this morning, making sure that everything that did not appear to be damaged was truly not damaged and we could safely restore power. And we were able to do that, but we are still waiting for the parts to replace the damaged cable.
Do we have a timeline on how long it's going to take to potentially get that part that you guys are waiting for?
We don't know at this point. We've reached out to multiple suppliers. We are working diligently to get that. And the people who are involved in this are going to be working throughout the weekend to, one, ensure that the system remain stable and safe so that we can supply service to our customers. But then when there's time and we get the supplies, we can get in there and fix it.
During a situation like this, do you guys ever maybe share resources with maybe CTA or another suburban line if you're in need of a part like this that they may have? Does that ever happen in these types of situations?
There's not really any equivalent out here,
okay.
So it's a little different. The CTA, yes, they do run on electricity. The rail does, but it's a completely different type of system. Ours is an overhead catenary system with both direct current and alternating current, but the trains are drawing the direct current power, and that is the part that was damaged, and we need the supply to that. None of the overhead wires were damaged.
That is
good news. The power supply, part of the power supply was damaged.
So, Meg, where should people be looking for updates throughout the weekend?
Metra.com is your first place to go. Go to Service Alerts tab at the very top of the website, and there will any alerts for the Metro Electric District or any of our lines will be listed there. We also, if there's a significant update, if say we are not going to be able to provide normal service on Tuesday morning for whatever reason, we will be putting out information to the media through my office so there'll be two ways for people to get it. So I would recommend, watch your evening news on Monday night so that you know what Tuesday morning is going to offer you. But our goal right now is to be able to provide regular service, at least for the rest of the day and throughout the weekend. We are still concerned about being able to, it's mostly getting trains in and out of the yard and moving equipment around is what we're affecting. But there might be some other, where we have to cease operations for a bit while they can get in there and do what they need to do. So it's still an active scene, basically.
Process.
We are able to supply service.
All right. Meg Thomas Riley, thanks so much for that update. Following an electrical fire that happened at the University Park substation on Thursday, they're moving things in the right direction to get that service fully up and restored as they're waiting on one more part to be delivered, hopefully in time for the rush of everybody heading back to work on Tuesday. All right, time is now 1:08. We're going to head back out to New Orleans. I was telling you guys a little bit about a second line in some of the music. I can see somebody with a tambourine out there. Let's listen in. right? You were just watching what they call a second line happening in the city of New Orleans. Again, 20 years ago, marked the landfall of the devastation of Hurricane Katrina, which made a lot of people from New Orleans move to other cities. Maybe it's Dallas, Houston. I have friends of mine. I was still in college, actually, at the time when Hurricane Katrina made its landfall. And I think through the power of social media, which wasn't around back then, a lot of us didn't really realize just how devastating that storm was. But now, 20 years later, we're looking back as that city is still recovering 20 years after the devastation that the city of New Orleans has felt there, for sure. All right, one of our other top stories happening this week, obviously the devastating school shooting that happened in Minnesota at Annunciation Catholic School. We're going to be joined now by retired Naperville detective Rich Wistocki. He is now the president of Be Sure Cyber Training. He's going to talk to us a little bit about what schools can do in order to prevent these types of school shootings and what we should be doing and looking at moving forward. Thanks so much for your time this morning, Rich.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
So the first thing I want to say is, was there anything in the preparation that some of the, I guess, administration could have been doing at Annunciation Catholic School to prevent what we saw happen a little bit earlier on this week?
Yes, absolutely. So what happens is, I train about 4,000 school resource officers a year across the country, and I also train about 300,000 students across the country as well. So in 2021, what you need to know is that the United States Secret Service had come out with their threat assessment survey study done by Dr. Altari. Dr. Altari found that over the last 12 years, 94% of the school shooters across the country, 94% had posted online what they were going to do before they did it. We call this leakage. And some of the failures of schools all around the country was that you have students who didn't know what things they needed to report what they were seeing. You have school officials and administration knowing this was going on, but they didn't know who to report it to or how to report it. And then the third failure, you have law enforcement who has no idea how to do cybercrime investigations. So what I did was that I took all three entities, students, the school administration being your IT, your social workers, your deans, principals, and superintendents, along with school resource officers, local law enforcement, and I put them together. In this 3-day class, I show them that they all have to be on the same page, because here's another failure that happened. When I start my class, I ask the SROs, how many of you are sick and tired of being the last one to know when there's a threat to the school? And they all raise their hand. I said, all right, keep your hands up. School administrators, do you see what's going on here? If you continue to not allow to tell law enforcement what's going on in your schools, you will get kids killed. And that's a fact. So in my class, I put everybody on the same page. What I did with my child exploitation, I've arrested over 400 internet predators in my career in law enforcement. I still do to this day. I'm also a deputy sheriff, a reserve deputy sheriff in Putnam County, Tennessee, where I handle all their cyber investigations as well. So what I did was I took what we do on child exploitation online and I put it over to the schools and threats. When I do that, what everybody has to understand is that the Electronics Communications Privacy Act of the United States says this: if death or great bodily harm is about to be committed or being committed now, any law enforcement officer who sees this can invoke the exigent circumstance protocol, which they will give us information on the person who is posting it within 1 hour. Once we get the IP, we find out what company is. Within an hour, now we're in 2 hours into this threat, whenever we see it, it takes us 2 hours to identify who this person is. So this class is a 3-phase approach. The object of this class is to give the student or the person making this threat the mental health help they need before the shooting starts. Now imagine, had someone alerted us to his gaming platforms, his YouTube channel, we would have been able to go to step 2, which is once we find out who did it and get them in custody, and we would charge them with terrorist threat. Because a lot of people say, well, he didn't do anything yet. What are you going to do to him? No. Making a terrorist threat that you're going to shoot up a school is a crime. So once we get them in custody and put them in the hospital, we're going to go to phase 2. Where do people put their deepest, darkest secrets of who they are and what they do? In their social media. So I train my SROs and I train my school officials that step 2 is we're going to execute a search warrant on their social media, and there we will find their deepest, darkest secrets in planning. Once we see their planning, then we go to phase 3, which will execute a search warrant on their home to take the weapons or bomb-making materials that they may have. Now, last school year, the students who have taken my class throughout the country, we stopped 42 school shootings, and 11 of those 42 had weapons they were going to use, and we intercepted it before it even happened.
Wow.
We are 2 weeks in the school system right now, right? My SROs have already stopped 3 school shootings and have 3 arrests in the first 2 weeks of school.
Wow. That is a lot of positivity, because that could be dealing with a much different situation. So if somebody wanted to enlist the services of your school, what should superintendents, school boards, what should they be doing going forward?
So all they got to do is contact me go to BeSureConsulting.com, or better yet, go to mycybersafeschool.com, fill out the questionnaire. And believe it or not, all this training is free. The Homeland Security has a grant that they have given school districts in the state of Illinois. That this is a 2-day class. There's also a 3-day class that law enforcement goes through. But the 2-day class involving schools and law enforcement is all paid by the Department of Homeland Security. So all you got to do is contact me. We'll set it up. And we want to train your IT people, your deans, your principals, your superintendents, and all your local law enforcement. When it comes to doing stuff online on social networks and gaming platforms, no one online is anonymous. No one.
Rich, are you currently working with any school districts here in the Chicagoland area or across the state of Illinois that you could speak a little bit more on?
Yeah, sure. So I am one of the only Chicago Public Schools vendors that go into the schools. I do a lot of work with Intrinsic, love my Intrinsic kids. Disney schools, a lot of the charter schools will have our people come in. And believe it or not, I have 7 instructors, and they're all internet crimes against children detectives. And we teach our parent presentations in English, Spanish, Polish, and Arabic. And so we try to serve the Chicagoland community. Just to give you a little stat, last year we taught in 80 schools across the country. We taught about 300,000 students, and after our presentations, we had 40 kids come to us after the presentation saying, "That's happening to me. I don't know what to do, and help me." I just left Putnam County, Tennessee. I taught in 8 schools there. We had 5 victims, and 2 were with predators that were actively working. So it doesn't happen somewhere else. People can go on YouTube and search my name, Detective Rich Wasaki. A lot of my schools in CPS will get a recording of how I teach them, and they'll put it up on their YouTube channel. So if you want our team to come to your schools, by all means, just go to mycybersafeschool.com, and we'll be more than happy to help you.
All right, Rich, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. All right,
thank you so much. We got to save our kids.
Yes, we do. We definitely need to protect our kids, teachers, and administrators as well. All right, our time is now coming up on 1:18 on this Friday. We're off to a very fast start on this edition of Chicago Live. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Time is now 1:21 on this Friday. It is August the 29th. And 20 years ago today, Hurricane Katrina made landfall across the Gulf Coast of America. And specifically, the biggest city down there, of course, is the city of New Orleans, which has been forever changed because of this day 20 years ago. For more perspective on this storm and why it was so powerful and some of the damage it did down there in NOLA, we're going to be joined by Brian Norcross, the hurricane expert from Fox Weather. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thanks, Brian. Good to be with you.
What was it about Katrina? You can go right ahead, Brian.
No, I was going to say that it was an exceptional storm. I was in Miami, but I was working for the CBS network. I was the hurricane analyst for CBS at the time. And I was supposed to be in New York actually doing the morning show for CBS, but because Katrina, as a Category 1 hurricane, hit South Florida a few days before, I was in South Florida in Miami and tracking the storm because they are just like here at Fox Weather. I had more resources to kind of keep track of what was going on. So that Monday morning, I was scheduled to do the early show, it was called, the CBS News early show. And I was saying for the first couple hours of the show, it looks like New Orleans is okay. The news we have is that nothing serious has happened. We're very concerned about Mississippi because they were forecasting 28 feet of storm surge. In other words, the Gulf coming up 28 feet above its normal level in southern Mississippi. So we were just hoping and praying that everybody was out of there. But New Orleans, we were a little confident about. Then it was 8:15 a.m. Central Time that I was just about to go on with a weather hit there in the extended part of the early show, and my colleague in the back, meteorologist, was listening to New Orleans radio, heard about the levee breach. I looked at the emergency bulletin on a monitor right next to me, and I immediately, like 10 seconds later, reported it on CBS that the flood wall had failed on the Industrial Canal in the lower Ninth Ward, and the Gulf of Mexico was running into the eastern part of New Orleans. And then, of course, the rest of that morning, it just went downhill as the winds came around from the north, and the flood walls in the northern side of the city failed, and what happened. And we lost track of our people. We had no communications. The power went out there. We didn't know for quite some time what exactly their situation was. And they got up on the interstate and stranded on this interstate bridge, but they could get some text out from there. And that's how we had some idea of what was going on with them as we started to get some pictures of what had happened in the city.
And Brian, can you explain, I guess, what category this storm was? Because I feel like I remember this wasn't a Category 5 storm. It was actually the levees breaking is what really caused so much damage to the city of New Orleans, and not exactly just the storm itself.
Exactly. So it was a Category 5 storm the day before. So on the 28th, it reached Category. It was unbelievable. I mean, we're watching it and going, oh, my God, this is not just going to be a water event. This is going to be a wind event as well. But then, as hurricanes do when they're moving north and are getting near land sometimes, dry air got into it, and the storm weakened but expanded in size dramatically. And very much like if you have the bathtub full of water and you push the water with your hand, you move so much water. But if you push it with your whole arm, you move a lot more water. A bigger storm moves more water with more force coming into southern Mississippi, coming up what was called the Mississippi Gulf River Outlet Canal into the city, knocked over the flood walls there, same thing. But because of that extra size, that water had extra energy to do this damage and to be pushed that much higher along that entire coastline.
Brian, can you explain to our viewers here in the Chicago area exactly how the levee system works, and explain also how the city of New Orleans is essentially underwater, or below sea level, I should say, not underwater.
Well, yeah, right. Thankfully, not underwater. In 1965, there was a hurricane that hit New Orleans, Hurricane Betsy. It flooded many parts of the city that ended up flooding Katrina. After that, Congress allocated money. Corps of Engineers built a combination levee. A levee is a kind of a pile of dirt, and a flood wall system, which is like a wall that's anchored into the ground to protect the parts of New Orleans, in fact, the city of New Orleans, essentially. And New Orleans, where the French Quarter is, the most famous part of New Orleans, that's high ground. That was the original city. But then as they expanded the city, they drained lower parts of the city and put up walls to protect those lower parts of the city. So that's how the city ended up the way it is today. Well, it turned out that when those flood walls were built and they really weren't maintained very well, and the administration of them was terrible, they weren't done right. And so when this incredible storm surge with all this force came along, the flood walls failed. They just buckled over in multiple parts of the city, and some of the levees got topped as well. Well, so what's happened subsequently is they spent $14.5 billion, federal government spent the money, to protect the city with flood walls, but mostly levees and flood gates that should not fail in the next hurricane. So the water may come over the top, and that's okay because they have pumps inside to take the water out. But if that happens, they've reinforced these things in a way that engineering says the water will stop coming over the top as soon as the water outside from the storm goes down. So the city should be okay. Now, the surrounding areas outside of the flooding risk reduction system, it's called, they're still going to have a big problem in a big, big hurricane. Same thing in Mississippi. Nothing is there to protect them, except hopefully they've built the houses up from the way they were before Katrina. But the flooding situation in New Orleans is much, much better in the city now than it was before Katrina came along with that kind of rickety system that they had then.
Now, Brian, you've covered so many hurricanes over the course of your long career. Is there anything that we learned from Katrina and in New Orleans that can be applied to other hurricanes across the country that we will definitely see in the future?
Well, I think the lesson from Katrina is very much like the lesson from the big tornado that you might get in Chicagoland, that we need to plan for the worst. Right? If you make your plan for the worst thing you can imagine and then try and keep thinking of something that could be worse and make that plan of what you're going to do if that happens, then you can back off the plan easily. But you can't kind of increase the plan in the middle of a crisis. So that's what we learned from Katrina. That's what we learned from Hurricane Andrew that I was very involved with in 1992, is that, yes, indeed, the worst does happen sometimes. And if we don't have a plan for that, we're going to have a big, big problem. And in neither Andrew nor Katrina did the government really have a plan for dealing with something of that scale.
And speaking of that plan, do you have any idea what does that look like? Like, obviously, with the hurricane, you at least have a couple of days warning that a big storm is at least headed that way, which gives residents in that area time to evacuate. I lived in Florida for 7 years, so I've covered a couple of hurricanes, and you kind of get used to hurricane season there. But with the tornado happening really so fast, there's not really a lot of time to prepare. So what does that, I guess, pre-plan that you were speaking of, what does that look like?
Well, most schools, for example, in Chicagoland are going to have a tornado plan, and they're going to know where they're going to send the students. It's usually an interior hallway that they can seal off, and if the school has been built properly, that will be reinforced. I mean, that's what you need to do. You need to say, okay, if we're responsible for a bunch of kids here, and a tornado is coming, what are we going to do with the kids to keep them safe? And the good news is that you can build a hardened hallway, and you can do things like that if you do them when you're building the schools, and sometimes you retrofit them. But businesses, government, schools, everybody needs to know that you live in a place where you can have big snowstorms, debilitating snowstorms, which usually aren't deadly unless somebody's caught out there, or you can have tornadoes. So what's our plan? What are we going to do with the people that we're responsible for if the National Weather Service says, you've got a warning, there's a tornado coming in your direction, you've got 5 minutes? where do you go? What do you do? How do you keep your people safe? That's the question.
Brian, we're still a little bit at the start of this year's hurricane season. What is our outlook looking like? I know we've got a long way to go until we get to the end of October.
Yeah, so it looks like we're going to be quiet here for the next week to 2 weeks. I'm saying second week of September to the middle of September. If the computer forecasts are right, that's when the atmospheric pattern over the Atlantic should kind of come back around to being conducive for storms to develop. So as of right now, we're feeling pretty good. In fact, not so much in Florida here, but in the north, it's very cool. It's almost a fall kind of cold front kind of situation, and it really is quite beautiful. And when you get fronts moving off the East Coast, that keeps the hurricanes away. But looking forward a couple of weeks, it looks like the pattern will shift, and we'll have a pattern more conducive for storms to develop. So we'll see what happens the second half of the hurricane season.
All right. Hopefully nothing like what we saw 20 years ago with Hurricane Katrina.
Exactly.
Brian, thanks so much for your time.
All right, Brian. Good to be with you.
All right. Time is now 1:32. Are we going to take a break, Jim? All right. We're going to take a break here on Chicago Live. We'll be right back.
Okay, guys. See you.
Thank you, Brian. All right, time is now 1:34. Hope your Friday's off to a beautiful start for this beginning of Labor Day weekend. We've had some excellent weather here in Chicago throughout the last couple of days. Was able to turn the AC off, save a couple of dollars. That's always good. This time of year, maybe a little bit later, we're going to check in with Fox Weather to get an update of where things are looking like across the country for this Labor Day weekend. But for now, we want to head downstairs to our newsroom. We're going to check in with our Fox 32 digital sports reporter, Chris. He's got an update on Kyle Schwarber, who just went absolutely insane last night, hitting 4 home runs. I think we missed him on the north side here, Chris.
Oh my goodness. Not just miss, but I mean like substantially. I mean, you're talking about a guy that became the 21st player in MLB history to hit 4 home runs in a game. Like, that kind of history is wild. You know, it's not something that we see. I mean, not just every year, but like that's once every while. But it happened twice already this year. Kyle Schwarber became the 3rd.
Oh, I didn't know that it happened twice already this year. Again, that's only the the 4th home run game in the Phillies' 143-year history. What I found was really interesting here, Chris, was that Schwarber was actually in a slump before he broke out of it in a big way.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny how we're looking at both teams, like the one on the north side and the Chicago Cubs, that are kind of trying to find a way out of that slump too. But he was one of those guys that turned some heads, especially in the All-Star game too. We had that new format where it went to extra innings, but instead of extra innings, they just kind of had a home run derby, and everybody was like, "Where's Shohei Ohtani? Where's Aaron Judge?" And I mean, in that case, they were halfway back across, on planes back, going back home. I mean, Schwarber was there because he was batting, and they had him go up there, and he just went, I think it was like 3 for 3, just no doubters, just home runs. And I think that's a cool way to earn MVP honors for him. And it's one of those things where you kind of look back and say, man, what if they kept him in a Cubs uniform, especially this year where he's on pace to set the Phillies franchise record for home runs in a single season. I think he's on pace for like 59. Cubs could sure use that right about now.
Especially because the Cubs' bats have been very quiet since the All-Star break there. It looks like Schwarber has about 49 home runs right now. It looks like only Ryan Howard has more in franchise history. Who do you give Schwarber maybe the heads up, or I guess the lead, to potentially bring home that MVP, since they were yelling MVP last night in Philly?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think it's tough. I know Shohei Ohtani's put out a really good. I think he's put out a really good resume too, especially getting back on the mound as a pitcher too. We know that was his calling card, and what comes to something that really made him special was the ability to pitch and hit. And I think especially last year, Shohei really deserved it, being the first of the 50-50 club. But I think this year too, we've seen guys just kind of take the spotlight, and I think that helped out a lot, especially in Kyle Schwarber's case. I think specifically for the Phillies, I mean, there's really no one else, because they do have Bryce Harper, they have Aaron Nola, they have good players, and this is a really good team, but there hasn't been a star in the Phillies that shined as bright as Kyle Schwarber has. And I think it's important to know, especially as we get closer to the postseason, where one star could make or break really make or break a team's chances. And I think if you're this hot, if you're Kyle Schwarber, I think it's a really compelling case for MVP. I mean, if I were a voter, I'd vote for him, just because I think right now we have a lot of recency bias with Shohei Ohtani, who's, I mean, still a fantastic player. Don't get me wrong. There are still a lot of good reasons he deserves MVP, but I think in this instance, Schwarber has put his best foot forward, and he's showing that not only is he a star in the league, but he's probably the biggest star in Philadelphia right now.
Right, even bigger than Bryce Harper. Wow, that is big for sure. Chris, while we got you, I want to check in on the Southsiders and the Northsiders. Since we're talking about the Phillies, let's stay in the National League. Cubs right now 6.5 games back. Any chance you think we can catch the Brew Crew?
Oh, that's tough. If you want to stick with the Schwarber comparisons too, last night Schwarber had 9 RBIs and I think 16 total bases on just 5 at-bats. And the Cubs, on the other hand, in 3 games had 8 total runs. So he had more RBIs in 1 game than the Cubs have had in the last 3. So I think it's one of those things where you need a lot to go right in the last stretch of the season. The entire month of September is still there. There's a chance for the Cubs to catch the Brewers, but I think the Brewers need to cool off. We started to see it a little bit. White Sox slugger Andrew Vaughn kind of fell down and cooled off in the ranks. We were looking at him like, I can't believe this guy's doing what he's doing. But we all expected a little bit of a cool off to happen. That started to happen, but I think right now the Cubs just have to get back and play. I mean, there's the only one thing they can control is what they can control. That's what they can put out and do on the plate. And I think Kyle Tucker getting back is a good thing. But PCA's got to join him too. Michael Busch has got to get back to that July form that we saw. Same with Nico Horner kind of being consistent. And I know Nico's been slugging as of late too. I think he's hit a couple home runs, but I mean, that's never been his calling card. It's been that consistent on base slugging and kind of getting singles, doubles, that kind of thing too. And the pitching's there. I'm a little not surprised, but I'm a little enlightened about how the pitching is kind of held up, especially as Jameson Taillon has gotten back into the rotation. But I think the Cubs bats just got to wake up and just stay woken up, and they got to get a little bit more hot going into September.
Going to the South Side now, White Sox do have the worst record in the American League, but I feel like the vibes there have changed on the South Side a little bit. This team looks like they at least have a couple of pieces for the future. Do you think Colson Montgomery could truly be a star? He's been really swinging. The Cubs could use his bat right now.
I was gonna say, like, I know it's not how this works, but like soccer, they have like they loan players and that kind of stuff. I feel like the Cubs would do well if the White Sox would loan Colson Montgomery to the north side for a little bit. But no, I think that was that's a really good revelation for the White Sox, especially when you understand the backstory of Colson Montgomery, of how he was sent back to Arizona. He basically got demoted from AAA all the way back to the Arizona complex, and that's not easy for a player like him to take, especially he was billed as like the biggest prospect of this rebuild. But I think specifically now, when you look at what he's done, he's embraced the major league lifestyle, he's embraced stardom. He's kind of fit into that lineup and kind of taken the bull by the horns and let other guys just fall in peace around him. And I think a big reason why we saw Luis Robert Jr. kind of take back a little bit of that batting swagger in the second half is because he didn't have to be the guy. And I know Luis has always been better when he's never been the guy. He had Eloy Jimenez, Tim Anderson, and those past teams in 2021. But now, kind of letting Colson Montgomery lead the way has allowed other guys to flourish kind of in the quiet a little bit. And I think that's something to watch as we get closer to the offseason, where this team is going to take another step. I know we're still not there for the White Sox. Like you said, worst record in the AL. That's not great, but it's such a far cry better of what they had last year, where they're now winning games and they're in games and they look so much better than they did. And also, just a reminder, Drew Thorpe is coming back. It's a guy that I know pretty well from his days in high school, and as a professional now, coming back from Tommy John surgery. I mean, this is a guy that can only help the rotation and gives the White Sox more power when it comes down to, like, well, you've got the bats and now you've got the pitching. I just got to put it together on the MLB level.
So it looks like the White Sox are going to be north of 50 wins this season. What do you think success looks like for them a year from now?
Ooh, that's such a tough question, because I think in this specific season, success was, let's see what the young kids can do. Let's put them out there, and let's try to get them acclimated to the major league level. We didn't need them to come out and star right away, but they have. Edgar Caro, Kyle Teal, Colson Montgomery, just to name a few. Chase Mydroth, another player that I really like what he's done at the major league level with his approach to his at-bats, but these guys have proven that, like, hey, we can form a major league lineup, and it's just taking the next step next year too. It's also finding a consistent relief system with your relievers, and I think Michael Taylor's one of those veteran players that's going to help out, especially in the outfield too. But I think when you think about what's next, it's just about bringing it all together, just finding consistency there, and they have the pitching staff to do it. I know they have the younger pitchers that are going to get back to the MLB level. Like I said, Drew Thorpe, Kai Bush, two guys that pitched last year that are undergo Tommy John surgery this year, so they're just on that recovery track. Once we get there, then I think the White Sox have an opportunity to put together a young, talented roster. And I know it's not easy to compete, especially in the AL Central, which is now just seemingly loaded with, the Tigers are up there too. The Guardians are always tough. The Twins last year were a good team. I know they kind of traded some pieces away, but they've got a good farm system as well. But I think now success is, okay, well, you got to start stacking wins at some point. And I think now that you have the young core, these young guys, I mean, once you go out and add a couple key relievers, then you have to start saying, all right, let's shoot for 500 next year. Let's see that growth kind of establish itself in terms of wins.
All right, moving in the right direction for sure. What stories are you working on this weekend? I know we got the first full weekend of college football, and the Bears Monday night season opener not far away as well.
I think that's the big thing we're thinking of this weekend. I mean, tomorrow at Saturday, I'll be out there at Northern Illinois University. The Huskies are taking on Holy Cross, the first game of the season. That'll be a lot of fun to kind of keep track of. I'm looking forward to seeing what their offense can do. The first-year offensive coordinator, Quinn Sanders, who came from the University of Charleston, they put up 44 points a game at the Division II level. So I think that's the thing I'm watching, is that, well, it's their last year in the MAC, and they're going to the Mountain West Conference in 2026. Can they leave on a high note? I think they can, but it all starts tomorrow, and we're going to get a good glimpse of what that offense looks like when the lights come on for sure. But you're right about the Bears, too. They're coming up. That September 8th game is just inching slowly closer. We got to figure out who's at left tackle for the Bears. We're going to hear from some players on Monday, but then game prep really starts that Tuesday. We're going to hear from Ben Johnson, have a chance to go to the open locker room. We're going to get a lot of answers on that Tuesday, and football season's here, and you can't forget about Notre Dame, playing Miami, number 6 versus number 10 on Sunday. That's going to be a big game to help shape the college football playoff this early on. I think Notre Dame wins that game, but it's going to be a tough test for the Irish, who have a lot of pressure coming onto their shoulders this year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one as well. Carson Beck, new starting quarterback for Miami. I'm getting old, Chris, because I covered Carson Beck when he was back in high school in Jacksonville.
I feel the same way about Drew Thorpe. I covered him in his high school days, and he's out here pitching big league games. And I'm like, man, I remember when you were KOing Cedar High School, man.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
It is. Where can people find out more of your stories, Chris?
Oh, yeah, fox32chicago.com/sports. Everything you need to know for Chicago sports is all on there. The digital team, we work pretty hard keeping everything up to date with sports here in Chicago.
Hardest working man in the newsroom. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Brad. I appreciate you.
All right, time is now 1:47 on this Friday edition of Chicago Live. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Time is now 1:49 on this busy Friday afternoon. Yesterday we spoke with our good friend Jake Hamilton, who was hanging outside, like I like to say, the best view in Chicago. Jake, you were very busy last night. You went to the Oasis concert. First of all, how was it?
It was pretty incredible, man. It was definitely one of those concerts where you just sort of think to yourself, when is this ever going to happen again? I mean, they broke up back in 2009. You didn't think they were going to ever be back on the same stage. It's been 17 years since they had a concert on U.S. soil. So it felt very much like a moment. Crowd was great. Vibes were great. Weather was great. I loved it. But it's not the only show taking place at Soldier Field for the next couple of days, actually. It's going to be pretty busy over at Soldier Field. Tonight, My Chemical Romance is going to be taking the stage. It is all a part excuse me, of the Black Parade Tour. Devo is going to be opening up for them. The doors open at 5 o'clock. The show is going to start at 7 o'clock. That should be a lot of fun. One of our producers, Mia, over
Mia's
from
going to the
Chicago
show.
is going to be. Yeah, Mia's going to be there, so she'll be having a good time. Then tomorrow night, the Lumineers are taking the stage. It's a part of the Automatic World Tour. Special guest St. Vincent and Lake Street Dive. I saw the Lumineers at Wrigley a few years ago. Really great show. Always brings out a great crowd. People are having a great time. Gates start open tomorrow at 4:30. That show going to start at 6:30. As if it's not enough, then Sunday and Monday, 2 different shows from System of a Down and Avenged Sevenfold with special guests Polyphia and Wisp. Both of those shows starting a little bit earlier. Gates open at 4:30, starting at about 5:30. Here's what I can tell you. For My Chemical Romance tickets, I looked. Cheapest you're going to find on Ticketmaster right about $170. Lumineers a little bit cheaper. The prices for those are going down. You can get into Soldier Field to see Lumineers tomorrow night for just about $60 or $70. And then System of a Down was right about $100. The ones that I saw. So affordable prices, if you're going out. But you know what? It's our last weekend before we're officially in an NFL season. So they are making the most out of their time at Soldier Field. 4 more days and 3 more shows. It's going to be a lot of fun over there.
Jake, you've been to so many different shows across Chicago. How would you,
Sure.
I guess, describe the experience of a show at Soldier Field compared to some of the other outdoor venues here in the Chicagoland area?
It's just something about, one, it's all part, it's the vibe of being outside, right? It's kind of having that open roof. But then also the packed crowd, particularly last night, it was a sold out crowd for Oasis. The general admission sort of, ground floor where everyone was standing was just slammed. And there's just something about that many people brought together, all sort of in unison, singing Wonderwall or singing Champagne Supernova, like all kind of together. It's a really good feel. Yeah. I knock on wood, I've seen obviously shows at United Center and seen shows at Wrigley, and there are some that I like more than others. It's so funny. I had a seat last night and was looking at some of the folks in the general admission area that were just packed, super tight, standing. And I just thought, you know what, Brian, I got to be out. My days of doing that are done. And I got to have.
What do you
a
mean?
seat.
You're
I wanna have
23,
access.
Jake. Come on now.
Yeah, dude. Just the idea of being in that middle group and thinking, man, I gotta pee. That just that's my personal hell. So I was happy to be able to sit down in my seat until everyone stood up. It was a pretty standing room only kind of show last night.
All right, Jake. Well, I got you here. I got to ask, who's on your fantasy team?
Oh, it's funny. My big draft is coming up. The one that I'm in. I've been in a league for about 20 years with some of my buddies from high school. And here's what I'll tell you. I've got the 4th pick. And 4th can be tricky because I feel like the first 3 are probably spoken for. So the 4th pick is the one where it's like
actually do some homework.
Anybody, you know? So I don't know. Do you have any suggestions?
Ooh, 4th pick. I would say whoever the wide receiver 1 is on the board.
That's probably
still
what
there,
I'm thinking. I'm going to get probably the best wide receiver. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that sounds good. I got a draft coming up today at 6, so I was trying to get some notes from you.
I was just thinking this is our last weekend to enjoy normalcy before our lives are ruined by an imaginary football team.
Yes, and that is the Monday
Enjoy
morning.
it, my friend.
That is the Monday morning water cooler conversation.
Yeah,
Whose team won? Whose
Exactly
team did well on Sunday? Jake, thanks so much for your time. Enjoy your
Love you,
weekend.
buddy. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too. All right, time is now 1:54 on Chicago Live. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. I'm Brian Jackson. One of my favorite things about the fall is Friday night high school football. Nothing like it. Covered high school football for about 7 years back when I was living in the state of Florida. But you know what? They play some big-time high school football here in the Midwest as well, especially if you're from Chicago. You know all about Mount Carmel. They have won the last 3 Class 7A state championships, and now they're going to test their mettle against a school from Cincinnati, Ohio powerhouse, Archbishop Moeller from Cincinnati. It's going to be a big-time game. We're joined now by the athletic director at Mount Carmel, Phil Segroves. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good, good. You're literally on the bus heading to Cincinnati.
Guys, how are you? I'm having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Well, I'm just having to put it up to my ear, but outside giving the folks a good look at Cincinnati. We're going over the river right now.
Give us an idea. How did this big-time game, how did this come together?
Actually what happened about 7 or 8 months ago, head coach Pendleton, who actually played at Michigan State, he's the head coach at Ironton, Ohio, reached out, gave us a call, and asked if we'd be interested. And I said, yeah, we're definitely interested. We felt pretty confident it's going to be a pretty good team for us this coming year. And when he told us it was Archbishop Moeller, we jumped at the chance because, we have some tradition against them, playing them back in 1990.
Wow, long time ago. Now, you mentioned you think you have a good team. Not just that, according to the Sun-Times, you guys have the most talented team in Chicago history. Why do you think the Sun-Times kind of made that proclamation about this year's team?
Well, Mount Carmel's been around a lot longer than I have, right? But this is my 29th year here at Mount Carmel. Served in a lot of different roles, saw a lot of really, really good teams. I think what, in this day and age when guys are ranked as 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, this may be the team with the most highest profile student athletes that we've had. I think Coach Lynch, our coaching staff, and even the young men on the team realize that, a star doesn't matter next to your name. Wins matter. So we're here to take it 1 week at a time and do the best we can. But I think that's why Mike O'Brien from the Sun-Times, had mentioned that about the talent level that we have. It's, we got a lot of Power 5 guys. So we're excited to see them play, and I think they're excited to play.
I was going to say, what do you think that this opportunity to travel to play this other powerhouse from Ohio, maybe some Midwest bragging rights on the line here, what do you think that this opportunity means to the kids making this trip?
Well, I think it means a lot. We're a South Side school, but, we have young men from the North Side, West Side, East Side, South Side, right? Some young men from Northwest Indiana and suburbs as well. But, Southsiders, we have a lot of pride. And I think that's what's on the line. Mount Carmel's in its 126 years of school. We've been playing football for almost that long. And it's just really important to us, for our school, for our community, and for the Chicago Catholic League.
Now, a lot of people, when they think of Chicago and high school sports, it's usually basketball. How do you feel like Mount Carmel is kind of not changing it, because you guys have been a powerhouse even going back to when I was in high school way back when, but how do you think that Mount Carmel is kind of showing that Illinois and Chicagoland is also a hot recruiting bed for football as well?
Well, I'm the AD and I'm also the basketball coach, so I don't know if you're asking the right guy, but, Mount Carmel's been winning football games since 1924 and before then. We think that, a lot of times you hear of Ohio football, Texas football, schools down south, Alabama, Florida. We think we have a great product here in Illinois, and we're really proud of what we do. And again, I think, Mount Carmel, we do our very best this weekend. Things come out on our side. Some people may be talking about our school nationally as well in regards to football.
What do you have planned for the kids outside of the game? First of all, when is the game, and are you going to get a chance to get any Cincinnati spaghetti? I believe they're famous for that down there.
We're en route right now. We've had a nice bus ride. We stopped and we had like a good old-fashioned picnic. Our senior captain moms packed lunch for all the boys and coaches. We've already had a great couple hours together, camaraderie on the bus. But I'll tell you, we are here to have some fun, but this is a business trip, and they know that. So there's not going to be any sightseeing. We're excited tonight. We have a walkthrough, and then one of our alums is hosting a dinner for us this evening at a local establishment just outside of Ironton. We wake up tomorrow morning. We'll have breakfast. We'll have mass with Father Mike O'Keefe, Carmelite priest from the class of 65. We'll get taped, have meetings, and we're ready to play football at 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow.
We'll be looking forward to that. Before we get you out of here, you guys are also moving up to Class 8A here in the state of Illinois. What do you think that this challenge means for you guys?
Well, again, we respect all of our opponents, whether they be in 6A, 7A, or 8A. But, Mount Carmel has won the 8A title before. So, we're really no stranger to that, although we've been in 7A the past few years. I believe in 2012 we were 8A champs. So it's nothing new to us. We respect all of our opponents, and whoever we play, we're going to do our very best to come out on top each and every week.
Phil, for somebody at home who wants to, keep up with you guys, is this game being streamed at all tomorrow, since it's such a high-profile game?
There is a link to streaming this. If anyone can go to our Mount Carmel football Facebook page, the link has been shared there, but it's going to be on Flow Sports. So we'll be at Flow Sports, 12 o'clock Chicago time, 1 p.m. Eastern.
All right, looking forward to kick off tomorrow as you guys take on Ohio powerhouse Archbishop Moeller from out of Cincinnati. Again, athletic director at Mount Carmel High School, Phil Segroves, the three-time reigning Class 7A state champs, taking their game on the road this weekend for a big game in Cincinnati. Thanks so much for your time, Phil. Time is now 2:03.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
You as well. And good luck on Saturday. Bring back the win. All right, time is now 2:03 here on Chicago Live. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back to Chicago Live on this Friday. 20 years ago today, Hurricane Katrina made its landfall on the Gulf Coast of America. We just put a lot of focus on the devastation that it created in New Orleans, but it also had a devastating effect on Gulfport, Mississippi as well. We are joined now by Leonard Papania. Did I say your last name right, Leonard?
Almost. It's Papania.
Papania. Thank you. Thanks so much for joining us to give us your perspective. First, I want to start with, what do you remember about waking up that morning?
I I remember getting up. I was supposed to go on shift about 7 o'clock in the morning, and so I got up at 5 because I knew I wanted to get a shower before power went out. And about 5:30, power started going out, and it was a lot more significant storm-wise at that point than I had anticipated. I remember radioing to a buddy of mine, and I asked him, I said, what time is this thing over? And he said, it hasn't hit us yet. And that was probably one of the big realizations for me, that it was going to make for a long day.
And Leonard, you were the police lieutenant in Gulfport during the time you later did become the chief there. Walk me through, what do you say to your family when you're thinking, you know, the storm has already kind of made its way, then you hear the news that it's not even here yet? You know, had your family already evacuated, or where was you guys, I guess, hurricane plan kind of going into this?
Yeah, so probably early Saturday morning, because the storm hit on a Monday, we started, you know, you really kind of wait to the last minute to pull the trigger, and we did. And so Saturday morning, we decided that they would go east on Sunday morning. My sister lives in Fairhope, Alabama. And so my wife and 4 kids and my wife's grandmother were all going to travel that way. And what usually takes an hour and a half travel time, they were 11 and a half hours on the road.
They're on I-10, I'm assuming?
I'm sorry?
They're on I-10, I'm assuming?
Yeah, on the whole shot's I-10, and they were jam-packed. Took them about 11 and a half hours on that Sunday to get over there.
Whew, wow. Why do you think that, I guess, the most of America, the United States, has kind of forgotten about some of the damage that was happening in Mississippi, specifically in Gulfport, compared to a lot of the focus for Katrina? People naturally think of New Orleans, but can you just talk about some of the damage that it did in Gulfport as well?
Yeah, if you ever visit the Gulf Coast, and I really hope everybody does, it's a wonderful place. People say, why do you stay there? All you got to do is come and you'll realize. But about a quarter mile off our beach is a railroad track, and it actually served as a levee. And I remember that morning, after quite a few different things, crossing, going south of the tracks that morning, and everything was gone. What we saw in Louisiana, while they took some wind, they had failed levees. We had a tidal surge that just obliterated our whole coast from one side of the state to the other. And, you hate to compare losses to one another. Everybody suffered in that storm, but to a large degree, we always felt like the focus was Louisiana. But I will tell you, we were fortunate with the how people just reacted to us and really reached out and helped us. I don't know how we would have done it by ourselves.
What is that recovery process been looking like? It's now 2 decades later. Can you believe that much time has passed? And have you guys been able to fully recover since then? Or will you ever be able to?
Well, yeah, you recover. The human resolve is an amazing thing. We were displaced. We lost our house in August of 2005, and we moved back into a new home May of 2007. So, anytime I watch on TV and watching the news where you see a big storm coming, my heart goes out not for the moment for the people, but for how long it takes to come back. You will come back, and you usually come back better and stronger, but it by no means is a fast process.
What does life look like currently in Gulfport?
Oh, man, it's great. I will tell you, I'm going to take this opportunity to invite everybody to come to the Gulf Coast. I joke sometimes. I said it's like living on a dry ease board. No matter how pretty you get it, somebody will come wipe your dry ease board. But you always get a better shot at it. And things are really great on our Gulf Coast, and there's just a lot of things to do. Don't think we got wiped off the map. Please put us on your map. It's a great place to live and a great place to visit.
I've spent quite some time in Gulfport myself as a kid. Have a lot of family, as I'm sure you might imagine. A lot of people from Chicago have family in the state of Mississippi, so I've got a lot of family members that still call Gulfport home to this day. Is there anything about maybe Hurricane Katrina or this experience that you want somebody at home, maybe watching here in the Chicagoland area, that they don't know, that they feel like they should know about what happened here?
Well, I will tell you, and that's really a great question. Everybody had an impact on us. Long term, the bigger the entity, like FEMA and the SBA and the Red Cross, big entities move slow. And I'm not casting any dispersion on them. That's just the nature of the beast. What saved us were the little mom and pop, and I hate to say it that way, but the mom and pop little churches and the little community advocates that said, we've got to get down to the coast and help them out. And I will tell you, within 24 hours, we had people rolling in and bringing food and supplies. And not only did it help feed and care for us, but it lifted the spirit. So anybody watching this, no matter what you do to help somebody in an event like that, it does have a tremendously good impact.
All right, Leonard, thanks so much for your time. Again, 20 years since Hurricane Katrina made its devastation across not just New Orleans and Louisiana, but also the Mississippi Gulf Coast as well. Thanks again for your time, Leonard.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Enjoy your weekend. All right. Time is now 2:14 on this Friday edition of Chicago Live. We'll be right back after a short break. Time is now 2:16 on this Friday. We're joined by Sylvia. You know we're talking about food and fun. We've got our own expert.
That's right. Okay, I want to tell you how I became the so-called expert, right? So during the pandemic, they separated us as anchors because of social distancing. Remember that word,
Yep, I
right?
do.
So I was doing the 9 a.m. by myself and covering a lot of hard news. Obviously, it was COVID. We talked about COVID. We often had medical experts on. We went to hospitals where we spoke with doctors and nurses. And you remember how trying that was. It was such a difficult time.
It was a heavy lift for all of us. Yeah.
And then there was the lockdown. Remember that? The lockdown came. And I happen to be somebody who always has loved eating out in Chicago because I think we're one of the best restaurant cities in the world. And so I'd gotten to know some of the chefs, so they had reached out to me, and they're like, we're in lockdown, but we're trying to let people know that we can still feed them. We're doing,
to-go service.
To-go service. And it was during that time, for the first time in Chicago, the mayor passed a temporary law to allow restaurants to actually let people pick up and take alcohol home.
Yes,
before
same
that,
thing happened in Florida when I was in Florida at the time.
Before that, you couldn't take alcohol
right.
home, right? So, and as you know, for most restaurants, that's the huge margin.
That is where they make
alcohol,
their money, yeah.
So they're losing money from that. They're losing money from the shutdown. And they're losing money because people have no idea that they're still open, okay? A lot of those restaurants pivoted and decided we've got to figure out how we can still keep our employees, pay our employees, because a lot of them are worried about their employees are like family members. They've worked for these restaurants, some of them for decades, right? So they all came up with these creative ideas. And a couple of times I get phone calls saying, hey, Sylvia, we're doing this. Can we come on and talk about it on your show? And coming on was via Zoom.
Via Zoom.
Right? Nobody was coming in. So one thing led to another, and I started realizing, besides being a news person who loves news and has been doing news for such a long time, that I was really enjoying doing these food and beverage segments. So I would have them come on a regular basis. And someone said to me, why is it every time I want to ask, where can I go eat? Where can I? You always have the answer.
It's true.
Right? So I started my podcast in October of last year called Supper with Sylvia. And what I do is I interview people in the food industry who not necessarily are just restaurant owners and chefs, but people who make products. Like I've interviewed people who do these special urban mushrooms. I interviewed people who make these cool ice cubes. You've probably seen some of these stories. And I realized from my podcast, these are great stories for TV too. So they've started shifting back and forth. So I've got my Supper with Sylvia podcast, and then one of my managers said, we should do a food thing on TV. So that's how Tasting Chicago was born.
And it's the best.
Thank you. And Brian has already been a fun part of that. And Tasting Chicago, again, was born from trying to help these struggling businesses to kind of put the focus on them. We like to find kind of unusual places, mom and pop shops.
We get into the neighborhoods. We get outside of just the loop.
We try to just and really dig into areas that maybe you don't know about. So one of my things is I ask people, if you have a place that you love, send me a video of the place that you love, and maybe we'll go visit you in Tasting Chicago. So guess who sent me my very first video? This guy right here.
But I said I've got the perfect spot for you.
And he started it out by telling me that he had just finished working out, so he didn't feel guilty about it.
Wear these clothes all the time.
Okay, so tell everybody about your favorite spot.
So my favorite place is Classic Cobbler, which is in the Bronzeville neighborhood, specifically located in the Gap. It's right off of 35th and Prairie. It feels like my grandmother's home cooking. Like we just interviewed a man from Gulfport, Mississippi, which Mississippi is where my grandmother's from. So, feels like that Southern love, but it's really baked into the crust and into the peaches, into the blueberries and pound cake.
Oh my gosh.
What else did we have over there?
We had one of everything, banana pudding.
Yes. Banana cream pie.
Banana cream pie. That pound cake was insane.
So moist.
But I love a good peach cobbler. That was good peach
favorite.
Cobbler. And here's the thing. This isn't just about the food. As a journalist, for me, it's about the stories, right? So the background stories of the people. This wonderful woman started this with her mom, right? It became a family thing.
Yeah, and I believe her brother has passed away. It was always his dream to open up a bakery and to kind of, share their family recipes and pies with the greater good. And now she's able to do it, and she's growing.
She's growing, and she has gotten such recognition. We were there on a day where it had been maybe a few days, maybe a week after a very big influencer in Chicago had visited her. And the day we were there, we saw a woman and two young, a mom and two young women sitting at a table.
Yeah, I think
Remember
they brought
that?
like her cousin or something like that.
And I said, oh, so, they came over to say hi to us. I said, so what are you guys doing? And they said, we drove from Wheaton because we heard about this place. So I said, wait a minute, you drove an hour for pie?
And they said it was worth it.
Yep. And that's what people
Sitting
do
in
now.
traffic, yeah.
So that's what we really want to do. Is we want to focus on these small mom and pops. We were focusing on everybody, but to really kind of bring awareness and to kind of introduce you to some secret hideaways that you don't know about. One of them is one I featured today that's going to be part of my Tasting Chicago this weekend, and it's called Rare Tea Cellar.
And we're not just talking about, not just Chicago rare. We're talking about all entire world
all
rare.
Over the world. Sri Lanka, Japan, China. He's talked about all these places he goes to. So his name is Rod Marcus, and Rod has been in this business for almost 30 years. What Rod does is Rod started out traveling the world to find some unusual teas, and then he'd get to a location and they said, well, you think this tea is cool? Look at these cool things that we have. You should do this. So he started collecting all these rare food ingredients that he is now selling to restaurateurs, some top Michelin-starred chefs, and even us, because you can go online and buy his stuff too.
What was your favorite there?
My favorite cool thing was something called finger limes that we featured. Finger limes, think of a lime, but it looks like a finger, hence the name. They come from Australia. And instead of looking like a regular lime or lemon inside, when you cut it open, you open it up and it almost looks like caviar, like little bitty, little bitty balls of caviar, and you squish them out. And a lot of restaurants will use them. Japanese restaurants use them. Some people put them on desserts. He did a really cool experiment with me where he took the finger lime out, he put it in a glass, and then he poured some club soda on. And when he poured the club soda, it started dancing. It looked like a lava lamp.
It did,
Yeah. And I also got to taste a tea that cost $250,000 a pound.
Now, I certainly hope it was the best tea you've ever had.
I have to say, it was delicious and smooth. It was really smooth, but his tea sells from anywhere from $30 a pound to $250,000 a pound. He has 6,000 different items, food items and ingredients that he sells, and he has 2,000 teas that he sells. Now, you know me, I love a good glass of wine. I love my wine. But I didn't know that tea is like wine. If you can age tea for a long period of time, he had an aged oolong from, I think it was 1984, and it was cave aged, don't get me started, yes, because I don't know, cave aged tea that is the one that sold for $250,000.
Wow. So is, I guess, the process for doing like tea pairings?
Yes.
Like with your meals, can you do that just kind of like you do wine pairings?
Sure, you can do that, or you can use that tea for recipes. Or you can use that tea for cocktails. If you go to some of the more popular bars right now, a lot of them are using some form of tea in their cocktail.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and this finger line I was just telling you about, he just made it available on their website yesterday. You're going to start seeing this at bars everywhere. And I feel like we got the scoop
of course.
Because now that I've mentioned this to you, you're going to see these everywhere.
So where is he located? Is it appointment only, or can you just kind of walk in?
This is what's interesting. So restaurateurs, chefs come from all over the world. They make an appointment with him, and it's in this nondescript warehouse in Ravenswood, okay? And you walk in, and it's this long, kind of eerie place, but you open the door and you go inside. I was so visually stimulated.
I have to see your story. We ran it in the noon show.
Yeah, and it's going to be on Tasting Chicago this weekend, but sells very unusual, interesting things. And most people, if you go to a restaurant, maybe like a higher end restaurant, some, not all, they know him. Everybody knows this guy. And not only in Chicago, but they know him in Hawaii, they know him in Japan. Wow. Everybody knows him.
He is the tea guy.
That is, Rare Tea Cellar is one I will profile on this weekend's Tasting Chicago. We have Classic Cobbler, and then we have Atomic Cake. Do you remember the story I did on the Atomic Cake? Okay.
Yeah.
So Atomic Cake is if you're from the south side of Chicago, you know Atomic Cake. Yes, I hear South Sider over there.
Yes.
Yep. And you go, the Southsiders, apparently everybody ate this for their birthdays when they were kids. So Northsiders apparently were not as familiar because this was a Southside thing. Yeah. And it came about during the atomic age, when, you know, everybody was worried about the nuclear bomb, and they named this cake that. And so we do a little history on it. And then, keeping with Chicago-centric, we go to the Vienna beef plant, and we learn about how they make the beef. And I learned so many factoids. Do you know why the relish on a Chicago-style hot dog is neon green? Have you ever wondered about that?
That's a good question.
Right?
Yeah, never.
Why is it neon green? Nobody else.
Usually, it's kind of like the army green or forest green.
But the neon green.
Ours is
ours is
it
like
pops.
it pops, and the reason it does is apparently back in the day when they started doing advertising for Chicago-style hot dogs. You know, Chicago-style hot dogs do have onions on them. So they wanted to be able to distinguish between the relish and the onion. So they just created this fluorescent green.
So is it like a food coloring?
Yes. And it tastes, it's the most delicious food coloring.
I feel like it's sweeter.Maybe it's just in my mind that
it's a sweeter relish that's neon green. Okay? So, you know, the Chicago-style hot dog, do you know what it has on it? Come on, help me here.
It's got the hot dog.
It's got Vienna beef hot dog.
Hot dog.
And what else?
You've got the tomato.
Good job.
You've got the pickle. You've got, what is the bun called with the little...
Rosen bun, the sesame seed
with
rosen.
Sesame seeds,
and it's got to be a Rosen, by the way,
yes.
from the Rosen Bakery in Chicago, okay?
Got to have the onions.
Got to have the onions.
Got to have your mustard. Am I missing anything?
Yes, pickle.
I said a pickle.
Like pickle more than a
pickle,
cucumber, But, and then of course the celery salt, right?
Right.
Yeah, and then it's got to have that famous snap.
Yes.
But Vienna beef is the best. So that's a really fun story. And then we also have the Mariano's Shark Tank competition. You and I have talked about that too. Mariano's does a thing called We Love Local, and they try to profile local vendors. So we spent 6 hours with them. We were the only ones there. It was so much fun. And we watch these vendors pitch their products, okay?
They may be on a Mariano's show very soon.
And the ones that we profiled that actually got in, you'll start seeing them very soon. So there was baby food that had unusual flavors to it.
Because babies can be picky.
Yes, well, that's the whole thing. The woman who started this company has her own 2 babies, and one is older now, and she was saying that her first child was a very picky eater, and she's like, we got to take care of this. We can't do this with the second. And also in the United States, for some reason, our children tend to have a higher rate of allergies to food. It's an American thing apparently. So she said, why not introduce these different foods? We're talking about like tiki masala and different Italian herbs, and her thing was, if we introduce them early, we can prevent the allergies that American babies tend to have that you don't find in most of the world. Yeah, so she got in. Tai Dang, who's a local restaurateur, James Beard winner, his Vietnamese coffee got in. It was delicious. One of them was an instant coffee with coconut in it. I have some, by the way, I'll have to give you some.
Yes.
Have I given you some yet?
No.
I need to give you some. It's really good. I have some in my desk. And then a guy who started a company called Dar Baklava. He's a pediatrician, and he wanted healthier baklava, and now he's selling all kinds of Greek snacks that are healthier for you. It was so much fun.
Oh, man,
yeah,
sounds amazing.
Yeah,
You got a packed episode.
So this is coming up this weekend, and here's the fun part. If you haven't seen Tasting Chicago, not to worry. We're having a Tasting Chicago Marathon Monday online.
Right, for
Yeah,
Labor
so we
Day.
have 6 episodes so far.
Ooh,
Yeah.
More to come. 'Cause there's just unlimited places to visit.
There
and
is.
to eat
There
here in
is.
Chicago.
Yeah. And you know, we often we have the James Beard Awards here, which is very prestigious. They've never been held outside of New York before, but we got them when Rahm Emanuel was in office. And we may have them for a couple more years, but there's something about Chicago, and I think it's that we are a neighborhood city.
We are.
So you don't see those big, huge chain restaurants. We have them, but we focus on the neighborhoods, like your classic cobbler. And I think that's what makes our city so special. That's what makes it so fun for me to cover it. But again, the food's great, but it's the stories behind the food,
And the people behind the food.
Absolutely.
Right, Sylvia, thanks so much for your time.
Anytime.
All right, it's now 2:30 on this Friday edition of Chicago Live. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live on this Friday afternoon. We're now going to head out live to Dallas, where police there are providing an update following a police-involved shooting. Let's listen in.
Patrol officers contacted the fugitive unit to verify the warrant and requested SWAT, who arrived at 11 p.m. SWAT officers used several tactics to persuade Mr. Bennett to exit the residence. All of them were unsuccessful. SWAT supervisors made the decision to enter to take Mr. Bennett into custody. At approximately 1:24, SWAT officers breached and entered the home to search for Mr. Bennett. He was found in the bedroom, lying in the bed. One officer observed that he still had the knife. SWAT officers deployed a taser, which was ineffective. Mr. Bennett stood up with the knife and charged the officers. Once the officers deployed another taser, and Officer Samuel McDonald and Officer Christopher Nielsen fired their duty weapons at Mr. Bennett, hitting him. He attempted to stand up and approach officers, who fired again, hitting him one more time. A SWAT medic entered to render aid, and he died at the scene. No officers was injured during this incident. This is an ongoing investigation conducted by the Dallas Police Special Investigation Unit. The Dallas County District Attorney's Office was notified, responded, and will conduct their own investigation. The office's community police oversight was notified and has been briefed regarding the incident. To be transparent, the Dallas Police Department is releasing the 911 audio, text to 911, and the body-worn camera footage of the incident.
All right, everyone, you are watching live now from Fox. We will showcase a little bit more of...
All right, looks like we just getting an update following a police-involved shooting there in Dallas, and now we're going to head from Dallas to Minneapolis, where we're getting an update following the devastating mass shooting that happened there at the Annunciation Catholic School a little bit earlier this week. Let's listen in.
Neighborhood community relations, communications department, and emergency management were all part of this work. They worked seamlessly behind the scenes and in front of them to make sure that people had the resources that they needed. Our emergency management team deserves some really special recognition because they were doing the work within minutes. They were setting up family support services and sites. They were providing food and water to the professionals that were on the scene in the moment. And they were also coordinating mental health response with parents and making sure that support was coming their way. Big thank you to Commissioner Barnett and Director Sayers, who are with us here today and will be speaking shortly. Those quiet heroes, they don't often get the spotlight, but the work that they have been doing, not just on Wednesday and the following days, but in many cases for years leading up to this moment. I want to take a second to recognize that following the events of 2020, we as a city did not sit back on our hands. We did everything possible to improve emergency management and crisis response. We worked tirelessly around NIMS, which is the National Incident Management System. We set up procedures and protocols. We set up channels to make sure that communications were going to the right people at the right time, all the way from incident command and the people on the ground up to the MAC group and myself. All of that work culminated in late 2023 with a trip out to Emmitsburg, Maryland, where FEMA helped to facilitate a number of simulations. Those simulations, that collective work, and the stick-to-itness that we showed in the years following helps to prepare us for emergencies of any kind. Obviously, you don't know the nature of an emergency before it arises. But the work that the city of Minneapolis has collectively done has shown resolve and has showed strength. And I'm proud of the performance over the last several days, and we also know that it's not over yet. I also want to give a huge thank you to the school staff and the students, because any emergency response is not limited to city officials themselves. They saved lives. They jumped on the backs of their closest friends to make sure that they were protected from bullets, and they escorted students out of the way to make sure they weren't hit by fire. They're heroes. The staff of Annunciation, the families at Annunciation, they are heroes. They deserve our full support right now because they represent the very best of Minneapolis. And to our broader community, thank you. We've seen neighborhoods step up with donations. We've seen neighbors come forward with support. We've seen faith leaders open their doors for comfort, and people have showed so much love to each other during the most tragic of situations. We are a greater Minneapolis family. Annunciation is a huge part of that family. When tough times arise for families, those families stick together. We wrap our arms around each other. And that's exactly the kind of strength and resolve that has been shown over these last several days, and it won't stop. We are united in grief, we're united in action, and we're united in a shared resolve to make sure that we are showing the kind of love that is emblematic of the city that we are. In the coming week, we know there will be a lot of difficult emotions due to school starting on Monday for Minneapolis kids, and we will be there. Our safety teams will support, and we'll make sure that families both are safe and that they feel safe. There is a lot of work to be done. A lot of work is underway. And I also want to just take a moment to thank the press and the media for covering it through these circumstances. It's so critical that we have you to make sure that we're getting these communications out and they're as accurate as possible. So thank you. And with that, I'm proud to turn it over to Commissioner Todd Barnett, who has been so critical to the coordination of these responses. Commissioner.
Good afternoon. I'm Todd Barnett, the Commissioner of Community Safety for the City of Minneapolis. Thank you, Mayor. We all know that a lot of folks are hurting from this week's events, but there is comfort, as we see our victims leave the hospital, and also comfort in knowing that there were so many heroic actions taking place this week to save lives. We all know that this could have been a lot worse if not for the heroic actions of the people inside the church and the first responders who ran into the church and to the scene. I specifically want to recognize all of those children who protected their friends from gunfire, and the school and faith leaders who ran into the church and to the scene without worrying about their own safety. Like the mayor said, this reminds us in the face of tragedy that there's strength, there's resilience, there's goodness, and there's love for each other. I want to acknowledge the outstanding coordination and collaboration from all of our city departments, our surrounding cities, the county, the state, and the federal partners, along with our community partners and nonprofit organizations. We cannot thank you enough. This demonstrates the impact that all of us can have when we're working together. Our Emergency Management Director, Rachel Sayre, joined us earlier this year, and I've watched her. She's hit the ground running. She has emphasized the importance of preparedness. she's also emphasized the importance of our response, the recovery process, and learning from incidents. She brings an international experience to responding to emergencies. Her leadership and her team's leadership in response were critical.
You were just listening to an update from some of the leadership in the city of Minneapolis following the devastating mass shooting at Annunciation Catholic School, which happened just a little bit earlier this week. Time is now 2:43 in this Friday edition of Chicago Live. We'll be right back. And on the other side of this break, we're going to check in with one of our Fox 32 Chicago reporters, Casey Cronis. She's got a very touching story that she's going to share with you that she's working on. That will be with you. We'll have that for you when Chicago Live returns. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Time is now 2:46 on this Friday edition. Now, one of the things that you're going to see on a regular basis on this show is right now it's about 2:45, and you're going to see what some of our reporters are working on for our later hours here on Fox 32 Chicago in our 4, 5, and 9 o'clock hours. So right now we're going to check in with our very own Casey Cronis, who is right in the parking lot at Wright Field. How you doing, Casey? It's good to see you.
Hey, Brian, it's good to chat with you and it's good to see you. That's right. We're in the parking lot of Wright Field right now, getting ready to head inside for our story here shortly. And before the break, you mentioned it is touching, and that it truly is. This is about a 22-year-old who grew up in Inglewood and unfortunately was struck by a stray bullet when he was just 4 years old. He had dreams of playing basketball, but he suffered, a really devastating injury, paralyzed from the waist down because of that stray bullet. However, he has really defied all odds. He managed to still play basketball, just wheelchair basketball. He has won all sorts of awards, went to U of I, and he is back home today. He's being honored by multiple sports teams, by the mayor, and tonight he will be honored before the White Sox game.
Yeah, that's going to be an amazing story for sure. Martrell's dream was to play basketball, and he's done exactly that. Looking forward to you getting a chance to speak with him a little bit earlier. One thing that I really found interesting, I was reading up on this a little bit, he said that this was not a he called this blessing a blessing, not a curse. So I'm interested to see what he's going to tell you a little bit more about that.
That's right. And he, continues to give back to the community. Earlier today, he was giving out backpacks to, local youth here in the city. So giving back to the community in addition to continuing to pursue his own dreams. And you said it, but he is, not calling what happened to him a tragedy, but actually calling it a blessing, that he is now able to, in turn give back to the community, and has this great platform where he's won all sorts of awards, has raised awareness about what he's gone through and about being a gun violence survivor. So this young man is doing such wonderful things. 22-year-old Martrell Stevens, and we'll introduce you to him later on when we get the opportunity to chat with him. First pitch is at 6:40 today, so he will be actually taken on to the field before that, around 6:10 p.m. So we're going to get to tag along with him, and we're looking forward to bringing that to you later on today.
Sure, he's going to have a excellent first pitch. Who else are you planning to speak with to add, I guess, other sources for this story as well, Casey?
Case Files Chicago and Andrew Holmes, local activists, have really made this all happen today with bringing him, to the city, setting up all these events. The Mayor Brandon Johnson, issuing recognition for Martrell today. So we'll be chatting with Andrew Holmes and Lisette Guillen from Case Files Chicago as well. And to think, this was in 2008 that this incident happened. Holmes himself, he was there when all of this went down, helped support the family at the time. So for him to see this really come full circle is going to be a special moment as well.
Looking forward to see you pulling this story all together. Casey Cronin reporting live just outside of Wright Field, where she's going to have a beautiful story for all of our Fox 32 Chicago viewers coming up a little bit later. Thanks so much for your time, Casey.
Thank you, Brian. Good to see you.
You as well. Time is now 2:50. We'll be right back on Chicago Live. We're going to take you back out live to Minneapolis. We were showing you a press conference there where some of the, leaders were giving an update following the mass shooting at Annunciation Catholic school there. Here's the mayor taking some questions. Let's listen in.
That requires help. So through a combination, yes, potentially of overtime, but also assistance from other jurisdictions, we're going to be able to do exactly that. Again, we could not do this without this broader team, and we're so appreciative of this work. Chief, did I miss anything? Or if I did, that's okay. You can feel free to add to it.
Thank you, Mayor. You hit the nail on the head. As far as our staffing with our police department, we will remain staffed with the assistance of our partners throughout the state, whether it be locally, county, statewide. We'll remain staffed to serve our citizens and give them the service that they are expecting from us.
Assistant Chief Gators, two questions for you. One follow-up to that. I know you said the timeline is fluid in terms of how long these extra patrols will be out there. What went into the decision to have that timeline be September 5th and not potentially having it be longer?
Great question. The question was, as far as the staffing, what went into consideration for making a September 5th ending period? As you said before, this is fluid. At some point we have to give a date just for operational purposes of when operations may end. It's a date. The chief is well aware of information that comes in, and dates can be adjusted, and they will be adjusted. I just want to make it very clear that we will be staffing our officers with assistance from our partners in law enforcement, and those dates are fluid. They can be adjusted, and they will be adjusted if need be.
Second question for you. On Wednesday, right after the shooting occurred, we saw dogs and officers walking throughout backyards around the neighborhood. Was there ever any sort of explosive device found at the church or around the scene?
And the question was, as far as officers and K-9 officers and K-9s around residential areas and buildings in the area where there explosive devices located. Investigatively, I don't have any information to indicate that that is the case. When and if we do come across that, that will be updated by the chief to all of you. At this time, I don't have that information.
Assistant Chief, I know you said no questions about the investigation, but just so we're on the record asking this. The chief said yesterday this hadn't happened. Can you tell us, have investigators been able to talk to the shooter's mother at this point?
I can tell you this, through working with our partners with the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension of Minnesota, there has been conversation, and I am not at liberty to go any further than that.
Can you say whether she's here in Minneapolis or the area?
I am not at liberty to go any further than that, but I do appreciate the question.
I have a
Thank
question
you.
for Director Sayer. How much is in this fund that is available for mental health programs and aid to people who need it? And the second part of that is, are there controls in place to keep an eye out for potential fraud, people breaking it off?
Yes, so the question was about the fund. The fund's name is the Minnesota Crime Victims Reimbursement Program, and it is run by the state's Office of Justice Programs, so I would completely have to defer to them on all of those questions about the amount and procedures in place.
Just wondering, in terms of the quick response that we've heard so much about over the last few days and the changes that you made since 2020 to improve emergency response, can you talk about if there were specific changes that were in effect on Wednesday that helped that quick response?
Yeah, before I answer that question, there's a couple of other things I wanted to touch on. From the very earliest moments, we were getting outreach for enabling additional support. The governor very clearly told me that they would be able to provide what resources that we needed, and they have delivered. The sheriff, DeWanna Witt, was also very clear that she was ready to step up and help, and they certainly did. And we're so appreciative of that work and beyond. From city to county to state to federal partners, people truly did step up, and we are very appreciative. You asked what changes have been made. What this is more about than specific changes is practice. And we practiced a whole lot. We practiced the coordination through our national incident management system. We practiced communication channels and how that would work in a time of crisis. We practiced making sure that people understood exactly what their responsibility was, regardless of the events that might occur. And that may sound like a small thing. It's not.
All right, we were just listening to an update from some of the leaders in Minneapolis following the devastating shooting at Annunciation Catholic School a little bit earlier on this week. Now we're going to take a live look at the big board. As you can see right now, it is trading down over 85 points so far on this Friday. We got a big weekend coming up here in Chicagoland. It is the farewell to summer.
Well, that's what they say. I refuse to believe that. I am not going to prescribe to that view, Brian Jackson.
that.
I'm going to take it all the way to the last day of 65 degrees, or pick a number.
I'll take 60.
Yeah,
65 is not bad.
Well, because we've had those numbers all the way into November in the past, and even December has had a rogue 60-degree number. So I'm saying push that envelope. Push it.
Okay. So I've been able to at least turn my AC off for a couple of days. Is that going to last, or do you think that's going to change in the next week and a half or so?
We're going to stay pretty temperate. Now, I do have some 80-degree temperatures coming up, Tuesday, Wednesday-ish, and about 80, not like 89. We're talking about 80. So, you might want, although it's cool at night.
It is.
So if you're cheap like me, you leave the windows open at night and you let the air in, and then you kind of close the
Mother
windows
Nature
up.
do what she does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Free air conditioning.
Yeah.
So we got some of that going. We're going to be very nice over the weekend. We've got temperatures in the 70s coming up this weekend, and then the end of the 7-day forecast, the numbers fall off by day 7, which takes us out to Thursday. 65, the daytime
65.
high. So we're going to have temperatures that are kind of pushing late September, early October numbers for daytime highs, and 65.
Am I too early to look ahead to Monday Night Football with the Bears?
No. Look away. Oh, you want to know the weather?
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. No, it should be pretty solid.
Should be pretty solid.
Yeah. No complaints.
All right, Mark Schell,
Yeah.
thanks so much for your time.
Hey, always for
Quick
you,
look
my
at
friend.
the weekend. Always love when you join us. Here. All right, that's going to do it for this Friday edition of Chicago Live. Hope everybody has a wonderful and a safe Labor Day.
Communications, conversations are frequently held with our safety and security within our school systems, with the police department. We work jointly on efforts to help secure and make our children and faculty members and those who are visiting schools safe. Those will continue, and the expectation is that they will continue as well with our operations side of our police department and patrol.
Just a question for the Assistant Chief. Do you know how many officers are taking advantage of health resources that responded to Annunciation, and also how long is the rest of recovery for before they go back on the street?
Thank you for your question. The question is if our officers are taking advantage of our wellness programs, and they are. Our officers in large number is very different than many years ago when I came on the department. It is pleasing to see the number of officers who are taking advantage of